Guys, Brady Fugel here. Welcome to another episode of Deeper Dives, the show for hardcore fans. We don't just dive deep, we dive deeper. Today we are talking Avenged Sevenfold, and with me, making his return to the channel and for the series for the second time now, we have Brian Bad Bass. Brian, thank you for coming on once again. First question I always ask is, how did you first get into Avenged Sevenfold?
Well, last time we talked 3 Days Grace, that was one of the very first bands I ever heard. Avenged Sevenfold wasn't long after that. I think I just ended up seeing the Afterlife video. Everyone was talking about it at the time. And, of course, the first time I heard that dual lead harmonized intro thing, I was like, what is this,
Oh,
man?
yeah, yeah.
Because again, I grew up with classic rock, so I'm thinking like Boston
Yeah.
had get harmonized leads, but I was like, this is a whole new level.
Mhm.
So yeah, I started listening to that, the White Album after that, and then I got into City of Evil. You know what? I will thank Burnout. I think they had Beast in the Harlot in one of the Burnout games, and that was a
Oh,
big one too.
sure.
I listened to that a lot. So
Nice.
yeah, man.
Cool. I first got into the band actually with the same album. The first album I ever heard from them was the White Album. My first track that I heard was Almost Easy. It's like it's
Hmm.
funny you mentioned like 'cause we did Three Days Grace last time and I already mentioned Sevenfold. We're kind of working our way like into metal a little bit
Yeah,
with each release, and that's kind of what I mean, we'll talk about
Gateway.
just how good of a gateway band Avenged Sevenfold is, but that album in particular, Almost Easy, Critical Acclaim, Afterlife, and also Scream. Those are like the four tracks I remember from that album.
Yeah.
Listening to when I was a kid, and then they fell off my radar for a little bit, and then like around 2013, 2014, Hail to the King was such a big album for them. We'll talk about that too, and it has some
Hmm.
massive singles. And around then, like that was still before I really got into metal. So that was another good like classic metal like intro point for me, at least in terms of modern metal.
Yeah.
Got that classic
Feel
modern
that.
blend to it, which we'll talk about. But so they kind of got back on my radar then, and after that, with the stage, that dropped at like the perfect time because it was around the time my music taste really started to kind of evolve and mature more.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that album as well. But yeah, so that's kind of my history with the band, and that's our history with the band, I should say. Anyways, how this is going to work is we're going to go through the band's chronological timeline. We're going to talk about each studio album in order of which they were released. At the end of the video, we're going to talk about what are our top three Avenged Sevenfold songs, and then maybe say what do we want to hear next from the band. So let's get into it. The band was formed in 1999 by vocalist M Shadows, drummer Jimmy the Reb Sullivan, guitarist Zachy Vengeance, and bassist Matt Went. Their name was a reference actually to the
Oh.
story of Cain and Abel from the Bible, which I actually didn't know until researching for this video. They first dropped a three-song EP, a three-song demo, I should say, recorded in October 1999, and then played their first show at the Walnut, California City Hall. They released their second demo with an additional two tracks shortly after, and then signed with Good Life Recordings, contributing songs to two compilation albums at the time through their record label. Matt Went left the band and was replaced by Justin Sane, and they recorded and released their debut album, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, in 2001. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on Sounding the Seventh Trumpet?
Well, first off, I thought I knew about Sevenfold. That's some deep cut knowledge right there, man. I
Yeah, deeper dives, right? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Like I know everyone knows the Rev recorded this album in one take, and yeah, it definitely has that like garage band flair to it. I will say of all their albums, this one is like almost in my mind, it's a different band than everything after that. It has bits and pieces of their sound, but it's just so raw and Matt sounds like I think he was like 17 or 18 at the time. He just hadn't developed his voice yet. It's really kind of whiny sounding. I do like To End the Rapture's cool because if I remember right, Sinister Gates came in near
Yeah.
the end of that process to add lead parts to it. So
Yes.
that was kind of cool how he threw that in there. Everyone knows the ballad "Warmness on the Soul." I think it's on the cheesier side of things, but you got to start somewhere. So I don't hate it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a very raw sounding metalcore album of the time.
And I think you said it best when you said that there's kind of bits and pieces of what the band sound would become because you can hear that like in parts, but there is that same kind of like immaturity in this
Yeah.
album of a young band and their debut album. One thing that I think will become a recurring theme throughout this video for me is going to be that the band's ballads are very hit or miss for me. Even some
Yeah.
of the ones that are historically, fans enjoy, I don't always like them. I do tend to like Warmness on the Soul. I like just the somberness of it, I think. And there's some other, sort of decent tracks in here, like Darkness Surrounding and the song Streets near the end of the record. They got like some of that punk rock energy.
Yeah, very punk.
Yeah, that I
Hmm.
think you mentioned too. And I do like just that there's a good amount of screamed vocals on here. Like given context of the band's career, like that's something that we don't hear much, especially
Yeah.
in the that mid to late era and the modern era. So it's cool to listen back and hear that on this album. But I would also agree that it's lower ranked for me just because it's fairly unrefined, and the band didn't really feel like they were confident in their sound yet. But
Yeah.
it's not a bad album. It's just it's I can best describe it like you said. It's kind of just the bits and pieces and a
Yeah.
foundation of what to come, and not much more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And man, if I made an album like that at 17, I'd be pretty stoked on it too.
that's a good point too. I mean, these guys are really young, and for how young they were,
Yeah.
like this album does sound really good. I mean, just like
Yeah.
you said, the Rev recording this album in one take. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like
That's nuts.
they had
Nuts.
they had an immense amount of talent just from day one, and it does show
Yep.
on this album.
Yep.
Um, Anyways, after this record, lead guitarist Sinister Gates joined the band, and he ended up re-recording lead guitar on the track to end the Rapture, like you
There you
mentioned.
go.
Bassist Justin Sane, actually, I didn't know this either, tragically attempted suicide in 2001 and was left
Oh.
unable to perform shortly after, and he was replaced by Damian Ash. The band ended up signing with Hopeless Records and re-releasing their debut album, and then touring in support of it, including playing a Warped Tour at the time.
Yep.
Ash left the band while on tour and was replaced by new bassist at the time, Johnny Christ. And they recorded and released
Wow.
their second album, Waking the Fallen, in August of 2003. What are your thoughts on Waking the Fallen?
Well, again, I didn't know they didn't get Johnny until that album. That's crazy. Um, a lot of people will say this is their favorite album.
Yeah.
Again, it's great. Like the amount of uh just refinement and production between the first album and this one is just
Oh yeah.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely got some of their, I mean, it's got Unholy Confessions on it. At this point, I think that's the most overplayed.
Yeah.
Damn, 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 damn.
Overplayed riff of all time. Like
Yeah.
that's like the smoke on the water of metalcore riffs.
Yes. Yep. Yep. But I mean, there's so many hidden gems on this. Well, I say hidden. Reminiscence might be in my top five.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Second Heartbeat, man. I
Mm-hmm.
quick story. I saw them the first time I saw them live. I got this shirt, and they it was in Minneapolis, and they actually had a kid with a sign that he wanted to sing Second Heartbeat, and half the crowd was pissed because they wanted to hear Matt sing Second Heartbeat, but they brought this kid up on stage, and it was really cool. But yeah, man. But that's a great song. The ending, All Things Will End, has that crazy weird like distorted fade out record thing at the end,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And again, it had all of, I think already they had all of their core elements, the dual guitars. Matt sounded a lot better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's still screaming, but I think and the songwriting was way better. Yeah, I don't think there's a track on this album that I don't like, that
Yeah.
I'd like to skip.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah,
And it's this is definitely probably their most like metalcore record all the way through, which similar to
yeah,
what I said about the debut, it's fun to listen back on this record just given how much more melodic and how much, the different routes they would go down after this. And just
yeah,
seeing this record like being such an iconic metalcore record, and then just the band almost completely abandoning that sound after. It's fun to listen back on it, and I'm glad you shouted out Reminiscence. That's one of my favorites on here too. Just
yeah,
this track, it's got some blatant extreme metal influence with the harmonized tremolo riffs, and just a lot of
yeah.
this record is a dark sounding record sonically and with its melodies, and that's one of my favorite elements of it. Like
Mhm.
Radiant Eclipse is really eerie.
Yeah,
Um, the,
that's a great one.
the two
Hmm.
the two part song I Won't See You Tonight. I mean, the dynamics in there, just between the first part being almost heartbreaking sounding with its melodies, and then the second track
Hmm.
the second part being just so vicious, and the
Yeah.
Les drumming is always a big highlight on this record too, and he brings a lot of
Mhm.
those like unique unconventional grooves. So this record, like it fits in that early like 2000s metalcore movement, but at the same time, like it's so different from it at the same time. Like it's an outlier within that movement, even if it still fits.
Yeah.
And it's still a unique album for the band as well.
Hmm.
A criticism I will make for a few of these records is that I do think it maybe is a little bit bloated. Like a couple of the tracks probably could have been condensed like a little bit.
Hmm.
But overall, like yeah, nothing bad on here, and a really solid sophomore album, and definitely a huge step
Yeah.
up from the debut, I would say. After the release of this album, they toured extensively, taking part again in Warped Tour, actually for the following 2 years in a row, before leaving Hopeless Records in favor of Warner Brothers to begin
Yeah.
work on their next album. Eventually, City of Evil was released in June of 2005, and it became their most successful album to date at the time. What are your thoughts on City of Evil?
I'm not going to break from the choir here. I think most people put this at the top.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just it was one of the first prog albums I ever got into too. And it's but they flow so well. You listen to a song like Sidewinder and it just flows so well. You're going from the verse to the chorus and then this crazy interlude section and then like the Spanish guitars at the end.
Uh-huh.
It's the way they tied it all together was just incredible to me. And they take influences like Iron Maiden and Guns N' Roses and stuff, but then they'd have a little bit of that, well, I wouldn't say metalcore, but definitely the more metal influences, you know. MIA, of course, has that classic Maiden feel to it, very epic sounding. Um, Man, I think I like the second half of this album a lot better than the first half too,
Yeah.
with all the singles on it. Strength of the World, that 2 minute orchestral intro
Yeah.
thing. I
Uh-huh.
mean, The Wicked End, it's just every song has some insane left turn
Mhm.
in it,
Yeah.
and so I will. Here's a couple of criticisms I do have, just because I've listened to it so many times.
Sure.
It's a long album. I will agree. Like kind of like you said, it's like over an hour, and it gets a little tiring after a while. There's just so much going on. And Matt has this weird nasally sound on this album that he doesn't have on the self-titled and four. I don't know what that is, but when he
I don't
does
know too.
the
Yeah, you can
the
notice in like
quiet.
the Beast and the Harlot chorus, and you can kind of hear it in like moments like that.
That's yeah, or like the end of MIA.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just kind of I don't know what that is, but it's a little grating when he does that. But
Yeah.
those are my only real criticisms, though.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It's
yeah,
it's a great. It's hard for me to argue this being their best. I haven't done a full like proper ranking of them yet. I mean, if they drop another album under their own name, which we'll talk about that later,
yeah,
then I'll probably do a proper album ranking for them. But this is definitely a contender for their best for me.
yeah.
It's really impressive how with this record like they evolved their sound so much, yet
Hmm.
it's also somewhat of a more like accessible record too than Waking the Fallen was. So they kind of did
Yeah,
both at the same time in a way because they brought in a lot of the classic metal influence with the guitar harmonies. Uh,
yep.
I've heard actually you're not the first person I've heard say, and I would agree with this to some extent too that the second album is better, or the second half of the
Second half.
album.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Strength of the World and MIA,
Hmm.
just epic tracks.
Hmm.
Seize the Day, a really good deep cut with some really soulful melodies and harmonies in there. The
Yeah.
song Trade about Dimebag Darrell is really
Yep.
powerful, has a lot of emotion. M Shadow's like vocally, like you can't criticize him. Like on almost every record you probably criticize him for, but he does deliver a lot of genuine emotion in this song in particular, Betrayed.
Yeah.
Just in his belts, and it's a really powerful track. And then
Yeah.
the singles for me still for the most part hold up too. I think maybe Bat Country is one of those songs that I've heard it enough times now.
Yeah.
But I still love Beast and the Harlot. That's at
Hmm.
least a contender for my top three. Just when those double bass drums kick in right away, and the kind of
Oh
sugary
yeah.
chorus counterbalancing the energy, like
Yeah.
it's still a really kick ass song.
The drum solo on that one is
Yeah.
nuts.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the drum solo in there, yeah, that goes
Hmm.
hard. And the album, it kind of brought back shreddy guitars in a way too. That's something else I've heard about it that I could definitely see.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because this album came after the new metal period ended, which was not exactly a very guitar focused genre, especially on the lead guitar front. So I think it was
Yeah.
probably really refreshing hearing this band bring that back from like the '80s bands like you said, Iron Maiden and Judas
Yeah.
Priest and such.
I think the Seize the Day video, he's even trying to emulate Slash from November Rain. He's
Oh
like
yeah,
standing out, I think in front of a church or something,
sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, same
Sure,
kind of thing.
but exactly like they brought back the guitar as like the driving force of the songs, which I
Yep.
think is really cool. After this album, however, though, the band continued to tour. They played Ozfest in 2006. and won
Yep.
Best New Artist at that year's MTV Music Awards here in the US,
Yeah.
and again returned to Warped Tour, this time as the headliners for the first time. They also completed their first world tour, but ended up canceling some shows near the end to begin work on their fourth album. They released a DVD titled All Excess, which included live performances and some
Mhm.
backstage footage, as well as a actually, this was interesting too. A two-part tribute album was released for them by the Vitamin String Quartet. It was two parts. It's called Strung Out on Avenged Sevenfold, and it's yeah from the Vitamin String Quartet. It was released at that time.
What?
I yeah, that was
Where are
something
you
else.
finding this stuff? That's
That's something else I
crazy.
discovered from. It's fun doing research for these videos because I always find stuff that I didn't know before. And
Yeah.
like I said, there's always a few. That was another example of that. But anyways, the
Huh.
band ended up releasing their self-titled fourth album in October 2007. And with all the orchestral string elements on that record, I wonder if they were like inspired by that tribute album from the string quartet. That just kind of
Yeah.
now. But
I
anyways, what are your
bet.
thoughts on the first album that we both got into from the band, the White Album, self-titled?
Yeah. So I'll try to separate my nostalgia, but I mean,
Yeah,
man,
that's hard sometimes.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's got so many of their most well-known songs. A Little Piece of Heaven is just insane. I don't know how someone could write that.
Yeah,
Really, this album is the Rev's album. You
yeah,
can see his
I can see that.
songwriting all over it. The double ride thing on Almost Easy, and again, I like the deeper cuts on this one too. Brompton Cocktail, I think, is super
Yeah,
underrated. Just a
fun
super
song.
catchy tune.
Yeah,
Scream, good song. Don't know why they wrote the lyrics that way. It's a little, I don't know if it's like tongue in cheek, like a hack and slasher
yeah.
kind of thing, but I do like that song. Critical Acclaim, crazy opener, Um, and it is true. We're gonna get to the later stuff, but even in these albums, the ones that kind of generally everyone likes, you can see a huge shift in style
Yeah.
from City of Evil to this. It's almost, I don't know if I call it mainstream, but like a song like Afterlife is definitely a little more radio friendly than an
Yeah,
8 minute song on City of Evil.
sure.
Um, but the only reason I wouldn't put this in like everyone puts this S tier is I think Lost is has some good elements. The auto tune kind of thing at the end kind of takes me out of it a little bit, and then Unbound,
Yeah,
it's the ending, man, with the kids
yeah,
singing the pirate metal type thing. I don't know. I don't know what they were going for there. It just
yeah.
doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But they definitely trim the fat. It's a shorter record. Dear God is one of the only country song I like. You know?
Yeah.
That's not true, but it's a good, very good country song. Yeah, I don't know. Just it's a great album. A great album overall. No complaints.
It's I agree with you that I wouldn't put it like you said S tier. Like I disagree with
Yeah.
that, but I would. It's floating around like the top three to top five range for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has, like you said, it has some really creative moments. Like Little Piece of Heaven is just that is, there's no other song that will ever sound like that ever. And
Yeah.
that always makes it's a special song as a result of that, despite
Yeah.
weird subject matter it's about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the some of the band's most iconic singles, like you said, are on here, like Almost Easy. The singles from
Hmm.
this album, I think, really still hold up. Almost Easy,
Yeah.
Afterlife, like again, I've heard it a lot. I've heard it enough at this point, but even that song, I still like.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Critical Acclaim is a monstrous opening to the record with those
Hmm.
organs. It's just such an epic track. I
Yeah.
like how I agree with you. That's a good point that it kind of does feel like the Rev's album a little bit. And when you
Yeah.
said that, I immediately thought to the chorus on Critical Acclaim when the Rev takes lead vocal.
Yep.
He's just
Yep.
snare rolls, and then second chorus he does the double bass. It's just a very creative like album in its arrangement, not just on the drums, but also like again some of those orchestral elements that come in. There
Yep.
are a few tracks like you said, I'm spacing out on the name. The song with the kids at the end.
Unbound. Yeah.
Unbound, yeah,
Yeah.
Unbound, right, yeah, exactly. Like that track, like it's a little kids bop, at the end, kind of turns a
Yeah.
little bit, and then I'm not crazy about Dear God, and that might just be because
Okay.
the style it goes for, just not being a style I'm really into. But again, that's
Yeah.
one of those tracks that I think just it goes for more. I don't know if I want to call it a ballad, but it goes for more of like that melodic, that somber nature, and it doesn't
Hmm.
totally register with me all the way. But I mean, I do like that I respect and like that they at least went for that kind of departure on this record.
Yeah.
And it sets up a few other tracks in their future that I think will take direct descendants from Dear God, which I'll talk about. But
Hmm.
overall, this is still a really good, very dynamic album. Like
Yeah.
Pronto Cocktail, that's a really fun song too. A good
Yeah.
group, but
Well, I gotta say, this is the best Matt's ever sounded, in my
yeah,
opinion.
he
His
does sound
vocal.
great on this record. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I would probably agree with that too. He
Hmm.
sounds, his rasp is really there. It doesn't sound forced. He doesn't sound like he's been smoking a pack a day like
Right.
the newer records, and he doesn't sound as whiny as some of the older records. So you're right. I
Yeah.
think this is a good like balance point for Matt's vocals.
Hmm.
And yeah, after the release of this record, they went on a headlining Taste of Chaos tour to promote the record and
Hmm.
released a live in the LBC and Diamonds in the Rough live album B-side compilation in 2008. However, on December 28th, 2009, the Rev had tragically passed away at the young age of 28. The band considered disbanding, but ultimately still decided to enter the studio and record their next album with Dream Theater drummer Mike Portnoy. Which
Yep.
obviously the Rev's passing is one of metal's biggest tragedies, and I don't think many people would argue that.
Hmm.
But I mean, you gotta imagine the band's point of view, like when they have Mike Portnoy
Yeah.
playing drums on their album, like that was probably like a dream come true for them at the same time. So
Yeah.
at least they got something good to come out of that tragic event. That's just how I've always thought that because I know Dream Theater was always a big inspiration on them.
Hmm.
And yeah, eventually, Nightmare, their next album featuring Mike Portnoy, was released in July of 2010. So what are your thoughts on Nightmare?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'll mention that Diamonds in the Rough. I watched that DVD so many times.
Yeah,
It's a
I
great
never
one.
seen it.
And honestly, there's some songs on Diamonds in the Rough that might be in my top three.
Yeah,
There's some really I'll just mention that like Dancing Dead and Demons and Crossroads. They're all
sure.
great stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, Nightmare, I'd put it right up there with the self-titled.
Yeah,
If I probably like it more, a little bit
yeah,
more, honestly. The second half of you were talking about emotion with Matt. Obviously, ton of emotion in this album,
yeah.
and I kind of like that the second half of this album is a lot of ballads,
Hmm.
because in a way it is a concept album about grief. You start with the anger,
Yeah.
Nightmare, Welcome to the Family, Buried Alive, and then it gets more somber as the album goes on. Save Me, incredible and very Dream Theater-esque, I would say. That's one of their best prog songs, I would say. And it does give Mike Portnoy a chance to really strut his stuff a little bit in
Hmm.
the middle section of that. There's some really cool drum work there.
Yeah.
Um, and I said the last album was the Revs album. I know he wrote a lot of the material in this album
I think he
too
did. Yeah.
before he died.
Yeah.
I mean, Fiction, I think he basically, that was kind of his death note in a way, which is
Yeah.
incredibly haunting when you
Hmm.
listen to that song
Yeah.
now. And man, his vocals on that are nuts. Oh,
Hmm.
that soaring melody in the chorus.
Yep.
Um, yeah, again, I've listened to these albums so many times. Nightmare, one of my favorites, probably might be definitely up there in the top three for sure.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, Natural Born Killer, super
Oh yeah.
underrated song. I wish they'd played it live.
Great one.
Um, I know they've played God Hates Us live. That one's really good.
Mhm.
But again, I like the somber stuff. Tonight the World Dies is just such a haunting is the word I'd use for a lot of these.
Yeah.
Victim, just a ton of emotion because obviously there's going to be a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I just have to give it to them that they even made the album. I would think after something like that,
Hmm.
maybe hang it up and call it a day, but
Yeah.
no, they did it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it says something that like they come back with like with this good of an album still. I mean, it's still
yeah,
it's not one of my favorite records from the band, but I agree with you. I'd probably put it
yeah,
right around the same spot as like the self-titled. They could fight for like the 3, 4, 5 spots somewhere in there.
yeah,
And like there's some great stuff like Fiction. I'm glad you brought up Fiction. That's my favorite song on the record.
yeah,
It's such a haunting song. It's almost got like the spooky quality to it with that main
very.
line.
Mhm.
It's just such a unique track in the catalog, and especially on the album coming like really almost at the end,
Yeah,
switches things up. You brought up the idea of having all those ballads like at the end of the record. That's something that does kind of detract for me because I do think it kind of dials down the energy. But
Yeah,
you're right
that's
in a way.
fair.
But you're right in a way that it kind of does provide like a story of grief, which and I never had that perspective before, and I could totally see that. Like you said, with the heavier, angry songs at the beginning, like title track and What There's Family and such. Um,
Hmm.
it makes sense that kind of the way the album flows, but a few of the songs, like I know Buried Alive and So Far Away, like are fan favorites, and I do respect those songs just in their mournful qualities and in their lyrics.
Hmm.
But they're a little bit hard for me to get through, like all the way through, just because they feel a little bit long and the
Hmm.
tempos feel a little bit slow. This is
Yeah.
this is a criticism I have for a good amount of this band's ballads, and I also think that when the band does go for this more melodic, slower type of sound, Matt's vocals, the nasaliness does really come out
Hmm.
more.
Hmm.
And that's something that it has always I've always somewhat winced at. Like I'm still able to kind of get through it, but it's just something that it's always right in the back of my head as I'm listening to these songs.
Yeah.
Those are just two examples of it, but not bad songs, just songs that, I struggle with a little bit, but I see the appeal and I do respect them still. And Natural Born Killer, that's a killer track with
Man.
some blatant thrash metal influence, some blast beats, like
Hmm.
great vicious aggressive song, like near the middle of the record too. So it does kind of split things up there. Uh,
Hmm.
After the release of this album, Portnoy was revealed to not be an official member of the band, although he did tour with them overseas for a few shows, and he was replaced by Arn LJ. The band released a song, Not Ready to Die, for the Call of Duty Black Ops game, and later released another song, Carry On, for Call of Duty Black Ops 2 shortly after, and it revealed work on another studio album. And eventually, Hail to the King was released in August of 2013. What are your thoughts on Hail to the King?
So obviously their most commercially successful album by a mile. I do like this album. It's not, I was, when I first heard it, I was disappointed because there was no Save Me, there was no 11-minute epic song, but again, and we're gonna get to why I don't like their later stuff as much. That whenever they have good songwriting, like if they put their minds to it, they want to do a country song, if they want to do something orchestral, they can do it. So this was obviously a tribute album concept. I do think means war is a little too on the nose with Sad But True.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but no, I like, Shepherd of Fire is a catchy tune. Hail to the King is a very catchy, Ozzy-esque metal tune. Um, Doing Time's okay. That one's kind of I could
yeah,
put it in the take it or leave it. The ballads on this one I think are probably the worst ones they've done. Crimson Day doesn't really do anything
yeah.
for me. Acid Rain is fine. It's definitely the better album ballad. I would take your criticism that that one's a little on the long side.
Sure.
I would say the best track by far is Coming Home, and that's
Yeah. Solid.
doesn't. I'm a huge Maiden fan too, so
Yeah,
that one is a huge Maiden influence.
yeah.
But I do love that song. That's probably my favorite on the album by far. So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah.
There's, I actually did a video about this album. I was on Hector the Children on a Couch's channel, and we talked about it on his series, Is It That Bad?
Mm,
And everyone on the panel gave it a thumbs up, which
yeah.
like, that's just because, we talk about a lot of shitty albums on that channel, on that series, but, so maybe that's, why. But
That's the worst. Yeah.
like you said, like it's not a bad record. Is it one of the band's worst albums? I would say so, yes. But it's that's still not a bad album. The
Yeah.
biggest thing is just how stripped back it is for me. Like the band really leaned into the classic like mid tempo 80s 90s metal feel,
Yeah.
with more of like a pronounced like even classic rock edge at times. Um, it's a bit hit or miss at points. Like I don't like Doing Time. I think that's one of their worst songs. And
Yeah.
it comes
Yeah.
off a little bit too butt rock to me, like a little too Theory of a Dead Man and that kind of sound, just with that attitude that it has. Just not one of the band's best experiments. And
Yeah.
Crimson Day, that's another one that does really drag in the ballad
Mm,
department. Just a very sluggish song. I actually like Acid Rain, which is again a longer track, and it is a ballad type track. But I think it's one of the better ballads they've done.
mm,
I've always liked Requiem. That's a track that I've always
mm.
back to on this one. Heretic is out as well. And then the
They're
singles, it's
very
like,
tasty.
like you said, This Means War is a very blatant, like, set
Hmm.
through recycling, very blatant.
Hmm.
The Black Album for Metallica is one of the most successful albums like of all time. So like I'm not gonna I can't even I normally like I'll criticize a band if I feel like something sounds recycled, but like I
Yeah.
can only criticize them so much on here because like the song was so successful and it's still like a catchy song at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even like
Hmm.
and there's other points on here too. Like Crimson Day kind of rips off Nothing Else Matters, and the opener Shepherd of Fire kind of has that Tom buildup that is
The Enter
reminiscent of
Sandman thing. Yeah.
Sandman exactly. So like they do
Hmm.
do that in points, but it's at the same time it's so like unashamed what they were going
Hmm.
for on this record that I could still kind of respect it in a way. Like it's not like they were trying to do it like in a cheap way or trying to just knock it off. Like they wanted it's clear that they wanted to make their Black Album with
Right.
this record. And I think they did that fairly successfului. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's one of their weakest albums for me, but
Yeah.
a lot of that I think just from context. And at its worst, it's just a little derivative to me.
Yeah.
And I guess Doing Time. That's the one point on this record where
Oh, I
it,
gotta say, I feel sorry for Aaron. Like, I think they chained him to a post and tied one hand behind his back with the
yeah,
drums on this
I,
thing, you know?
I've always gone so back and forth with that because it's hard to tell if it's just like his drumming or if it's the direction that the band went in, which I think that's what you're
Well, he
referring.
played on Carry On though,
Yeah,
and that's got a lot more energy
yeah,
to it,
that's true. So
I think, and he plays all their old stuff live, so he definitely can has the chops to
yeah,
do it.
yeah. So I wonder if it was more just I've always gone back and forth with that, but I wonder if it is more just like the band like pigeonholing him into this one specific lane that they wanted to go in with this record. And
Yeah.
that does suck for him at the end of the day. And I've seen a lot of like posts like kind of bashing his drumming in comparison to the band's other drummers, which I mean when you're following up the Rev and Mike
Yeah.
Boy, I mean
Good luck.
there's only there's only so you can only be so good,
Yeah.
and so he might just be a victim of circumstance if anything. But at least this album I think it is still their most successful album to date. So at least he gets to
Hmm.
be played on the band's most successful album to date, regardless of how stripped back the drums are.
Yeah.
That's another good point. I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, they ended up touring more after the release. They headlined multiple festivals across the world and released a 10th anniversary edition of Waking the Fallen titled Waking the Fallen Resurrected. Drummer
Mhm.
Aaron Elje departed the band in 2015 and was eventually replaced by Brooks Wackerman. They recorded Jane Helm, another track for the Call of Duty Black Ops series, this time Black Ops
Okay.
3. This one was actually an instrumental. And the band was actually sued by Warner Brothers in early 2016 for attempted breach of contract because they wanted to, leave the label, which they eventually did. They departed from the label
Yep.
and shortly after performed a free live show in Minnesota, which was also their first show that they played with Brooks Wackerman. And they ended up sporadically playing headlining shows throughout 2016 before surprise releasing their seventh album, The Stage,
Yep.
in late October 2016, only a couple weeks after they released the title track as a single. And at this point, I was like a fan of the band, like following them. So
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit! Like the title track we'll talk about. The
Yeah.
title track is was so out of left field for the band, just with how proggy it was. And then like the album was there 2 weeks
Hmm.
later. It was crazy, and it was released via Capitol Records. So anyway, Brian, what are your thoughts on The Stage?
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was in college, and I'd always been into Sevenfold, and I was kind of disappointed by Hail to the King, and then the stage came out. I was like, "Holy shit, what is this?" Yeah, people dog on the stage. I don't get it. I think it's one of their best albums. Again, I love the proggier side of Sevenfold, and it's in spades here. I mean, yeah, the stage is a really well put together song. It's got that drum intro is insane. Part of me thinks that might have just been him trying to kind of say, "Okay, guys, I'm trying to follow in the Rev's footsteps here a little bit. Let me do
or,
something
or just
crazy for you."
or just we're not gonna do the drums on Hail to the King again.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But yeah, that song's incredible. Paradigm, goddamn, is a very catchy song,
God
man.
damn, is it catchy? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'll still say that I'll agree with you that the ballads are a little weaker on this. Angels is okay. kind of cool how it I think that one goes right into simulation if I remember
Mhm.
right, which is kind
Yeah.
of neat. But again, there's so many cool little things. Simulation has a little like jazz guitar leads at the end, which is just like out of nowhere. Fermi Paradox, they've got the like quiet blast beats going on the verse. I
Yep.
mean, yeah, and Exist, I mean, okay, it's 15 minutes. You could argue it's on the long side, but I think it works really well. It's
Uh-huh.
more of like a three sections. It's like a, you
Mhm.
know,
It,
like
it
a,
works in the full album context, which I think is a good way to listen to this album as a whole.
yeah, yeah. So, my only qualms with this album would be this is the start of their, self-production where I think they produce it themselves, and I don't think it sounds as good as it could.
Sure.
I think this album sounds pretty good. Um, I think it gets worse from here in that aspect. But that would be my one downside is I think the mix on it isn't quite up to par
Okay.
with their old stuff. Like
Okay.
if this had been mixed the same way self-titled was, it'd be insane.
Yeah.
So
I think
that yeah.
maybe something that has to do with that is like I do think there is more of like a synthetic sound to the production overall.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would normally criticize. I actually think it kind of works on this record because of just the themes and the sonic imagery and the landscapes you get from some of these tracks. So
Yeah.
I think they kind of works in its favor with this record. We'll talk about future records like you just said,
Hmm.
but I do think it for the most part works on here. And this record was so exciting to me. It still is so exciting to me because it felt like the band here were finally launching into like their full technical and progressive capabilities. Like
Hmm.
on every record before this one, even like City of Evil and the the better records to some extent. Like it always
Yeah.
it still to me felt like the band was like this prog band that was caged within a more accessible mainstream metal band to some extent, as good as those
Yeah.
still are. And this record is where they finally just said fuck it and just
Yep.
decided to just do whatever felt and came naturally. And I do think the addition of drummer Brooks Wackerman was a game changer on this record because like
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
like RNLJ, like he's fine. And I'm sure they did pigeonhole him a little bit on this means on I'm sorry on Hail to the King,
Yep.
but Brooks Wackerman on here, like he brings so much personality to the drum kit, and that just it's so fun to listen to. Like those quirky grooves on Paradigm right away when you get in there.
Yep.
He still brings the double bass on like on Goddamn. Angel has
Hmm.
kind of a split up odd time meters, which I think is cool. Those are just a few instances.
Yep.
And it's another album that I think similar to Waking the Fallen. It's got that darkness to it. And
Hmm.
I like when I hear that in a record, and I think Avenged does that pretty well when they go for that, especially on like full albums, because like Paradigm, it's super creepy and eerie right away. Crazy
Yeah.
God has that like that lurking quality to it in the verses, especially in the chorus, how it kind of like ascends. Sunny
Yep.
Disposition is a super dynamic cut with
Yeah.
those like
Bring back the horns.
the horn
Yeah.
sections, yeah, the horn sections of that song are sick. Like
Hmm.
it sounds like Satan's band or something like that in like the best
Yeah.
way possible. Just like it's this evil sound. It sounds so cool. And then For My Paradox is another track that I would clump into that same group with a lot of cool dynamics. I do actually like the track Higher. It's got like those ballad
Yeah.
melodies, but it's a good dynamic deep cut. And I think maybe like Roman Sky, which is one of the more ballad type tracks on here. That's maybe the one the weaker point on the record. But
Yeah.
overall, this is a thrilling record to listen to. Still to this day, it's I'm not exactly again not exactly sure where I would place it. It's another one that I would probably put in like the 2 to 4 range. A
Hmm.
lot of these albums are very. If I would score these, I would give a lot of these albums very similar scores. So I'm not exactly sure how I would rank them. But this is another one of my favorites from the band.
Yeah.
And such a thrilling listen to hear them just kind of do whatever they wanted on this record. And that's still the way I see it, especially coming right after Hail to the King. Like
Yeah.
the differences in these two albums, like they're completely on opposite sides of the poles as far as progginess and technicality and all that. Uh,
Yeah. For sure.
they ended up supporting Metallica on their World Wired tour in 2017 before going on their own headlining tour afterwards. They ended up releasing a deluxe edition of the stage in late 2017, featuring one new original track, 6 cover songs that were all released as singles throughout that summer. I'm not sure if you mentioned that, but or if you remember that, but remember they were releasing like all those cover songs like a month apart throughout 2017.
Oh, for the yeah, I do remember that.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then they did as
Yeah.
and there was also four live tracks that were released
Was,
on that deluxe edition as
was
well.
Dose one of those? Or
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that was
Okay.
like the second one, and that was that. I remember actually liking that one because covers are really hit or miss for me, but I remember actually liking that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they also released a live EP titled "Live at the Grammy Museum" in late 2017, and
Hmm.
released the next year they released another new song called "Mad Hatter" for again a
Hmm.
Call of Duty Black Ops 4 video game. And it ended up being part of a four-song EP titled "Black Rain," which featured all four now of the tracks that
Yep.
they had done for Call of Duty. They released another song called "Set Me Free" in early 2020, which was a B-side from "Hail to the King," and
Yep.
it was included on a re-released "Diamonds in the Rough" B-side album, which dropped on March 6th of that year. And then they took their sweet time recording their next album. But eventually, their next album, "Life Is But a Dream,"
Yep.
was released in June of 2023. What are your thoughts on this one, "Life Is But a Dream"?
Here we go. This is the one everyone's been waiting for.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to talk about this in the context of what came after it,
Yeah.
because it kind of puts things in perspective. I went back and listened to this one, and the first thing I notice is that there's a ton of guitar on this album.
Yeah.
Like I remember when Nobody came out, and again, like you said, it had been what 5, 6 years
Yeah.
since they'd done anything,
Mhm.
and so the hype was pretty high. And then you just hear that main riff is just like a guitar synth thing. It's not really a riff; it's just kind of a noise.
Mhm.
And I was kind of worried when I heard this one because like Matt sounded kind of husky,
Yeah.
kind of like his vocals weren't doing great, and it had these like Kanye influences with the like to me it sounded like synth horns in the chorus. And but it ends with like one of the best guitar solos since ever done. I mean,
Yeah.
so that definitely saved it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of only got worse for me when you hear like "We Love You." The vocals at the beginning of that are just bizarre and all
Yeah.
over the place.
Um,
So here's what I would say to everyone that thinks Life is a Dream is their best album. If you compare it to the stage, I think the stage, they were doing whatever the hell they wanted, but the ideas were concise and they still had catchy melodies and they had, smooth, the songs transitioned from one to the next. This was just like, what do you want to do in this song? Let's do a like a Broadway style musical thing halfway through, How about we do a Rat Pack, James, what's that guy's name? Dean Martin song at the end of the album. I will actually, that one, surprisingly I like that one a lot because
yeah.
I think they did a really good job with that. Again, bringing in the orchestra and everything. It's just so messy. I think it did. Just, I get it. Everyone's like they were trying to do whatever they wanted and do all this crazy stuff. I just don't think half the ideas were as thought out as they could have been.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, the album just doesn't flow. I really don't like what's the one where they do the Beatles thing halfway through? Beautiful Morning.
Okay. Yeah.
It starts with this Alice in Chains thing, and then it goes into like a Beatles thing, and
Mhm.
it's just I respect them trying to just do whatever they want and throw shit at the wall. I just don't think a lot of it's stuck with this
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
"Beautiful Morning" is like the one track on there that funny enough you brought up that is the one that doesn't totally do it for me, but I actually really
Yeah.
like this album. I actually really
Fair
like
enough.
it. I would not say it's their best, but it's up there. It's up there.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it could be top four for me. Because I like that they got that's so different and so sprawling, and even though some of
Sure.
it like does come out of left field, like "Ordinary" has like the funk influence that kind of comes out of nowhere, but in the full album context, I kind of still enjoy it. And then the title track at the end, like you said, like it closes out on like such like a whimsical note that kind of fits the record.
Yeah.
I love the opener Game Over. That I love that track with the kind of Latin inspired acoustic guitar that is
Yeah.
slow and it reappears throughout, and then
Yeah.
Matt's doing like that really rapid style rambling vocal, and then it gets into like
Yeah.
the
It's almost System of a Down kind
yeah,
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I like that. That I agree. And then
Hmm.
the chorus kind of has like that constant like ascending descending thing.
Yeah.
I think this I love this track Game Over. And then I like a good amount of the other tracks on here too. Like "We Love You," I can see where the criticism comes from just with the vocals and also like those verses with the kind of droning vocals, the more.
More power, more. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a little cheesy, but it still kind of works for me because it kind of brings in like that dystopia and that darkness to it that
Sure.
it's complemented well by some of the quirkier natures of this record. I like Mattel. Mattel, it's got that really like infectious chugging pace right away, and then
Yeah.
it's got some of the biggest like dynamic shifts on the record when Matt's doing those like kind of falsetto vocals almost, which I actually think
Mhm.
they sound pretty good. Like I agree that he does not sound good on Nobody's. I was also really nervous about that
Hmm.
single when I first heard it. I didn't like it as a single,
Yeah.
but I actually do like it in the full album context. I think it just
I
works.
agree with that.
I think
Yeah.
it works better with the context around it. But I really like Mattel. It goes from those quiet parts like into those like pretty good sounding screams still. So uh,
Hmm.
and Cosmic I think is one of the band's best ballads ever.
I'll
Um,
give you Cosmic. I do like Cosmic quite a bit.
and
Yeah.
it's easier is a catchy song too. It's really catchy and hooky throughout. It's got a good bounce to it. Really, I think just Beautiful Morning, and then I think G maybe are the two tracks that don't totally get me.
Yeah.
But I really like this album. It's again not their best, but I would say it's minimum top four. So it'll be interesting
Okay.
to do a ranking for them. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like this one or the stage better.
Mm.
But with both of these records, it's similar in a sense that I really like it, like you said too. I really like how they just went balls to the wall and just did
Yeah.
whatever came naturally. Because like in the past, I feel like that had limited them to some extent, especially on an album like Hail to the King.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm.
they ended up releasing a song Magic in late 2025 as a tie into Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and later, of course, all in the news right now, surprise
Hmm.
release an EP titled Statica in July of 2026. So Brian, I know you've already given your thoughts
Oh yeah.
on this EP in various formats. But real quick, let's hear what's like your overall consensus with the EP still, a few weeks later.
It's well, it hasn't changed much.
Yeah,
I thought maybe a few weeks later, if I went back and listened to it, I'd hear something different that I missed the first time. No, there's
yeah,
I I don't even know what they were going for. It like at least if you listen to a song like Ordinary, you're thinking, oh, okay, they're doing this pop, the funky,
Punk
Daft
rock.
Punk kind of thing. I don't know what the hell they were trying to do on Statica. Like
Yeah,
my theory, part of my theory is Matt is losing his voice.
yeah.
I know he's had surgery a bunch of times and he just can't really sing anymore, which is really sad. He's one of my favorite vocalists of all time. But I don't know. I know he loves the auto tune effect. They used it on Magic. They were starting to use it on Life is But a Dream. It wasn't overwhelming though. I could stand it there. I don't know. There's nothing redeeming in
Yeah.
my mind. I've listened to it a few times. There's no melodies that are really sticking with me.
Uh,
There's no guitar really. There's like one lead and it sounds like a
computer.
sample or I don't even, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the vision is for it. It makes a little more sense now that they've kind of admitted it's a side project. It's not an Avenged Sevenfold thing. But
You gotta wonder if that was originally the plan, or if they
yeah.
just retconned it like that after it was released.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and they just surprise released it because they knew everyone would talk about it immediately. So maybe that's the other conspiracy theories. This is all their plan to
Right.
get everyone talking, and then they're gonna surprise drop a new incredible album, and it's gonna,
Yeah, and we talked about this, I think, too, because I saw that exact theory, and I was like, I saw this theory, but it's funny. My first response when I first heard it was exactly what you said, that Matt's
yeah,
losing his voice, so we need to
yeah.
monitor it. But then I saw that theory, and I'm like, that would be cool. That would be cool if it happened. I'm not sure if it's like
That's a big troll.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure if it's supposed to be leading up to some kind of throwback record of some kind, but like
yeah.
I like I wouldn't totally outrule it of some kind of that idea of just the band kind of building up and like sounding more chaotic, but the whatever they try to do on this record does not work. And I like their experimental stuff. Like I like
Mhm.
we just said, I like that,
Yeah.
and I like the stage, and I like from their past songs, like Little Piece of Heaven, stuff like that. Like
Yep.
I think they do that well, but with this, it's just there's not the musicality is not there, the
Hmm.
songs aren't there, and I feel like they just kind of wanted to sound like as quirky as they could.
Hmm.
It didn't quite work, and I have a hard time believing that the band would was expecting like positive reception. Like
Yeah.
they had to have known that most people would shit on this EP. But the thing is, like with how much, I've seen so many reels like sampling parts of the songs, like
Hmm.
the first few lyrics of the title track, like
Just dogging on them.
the static, like that whole part, like
Yeah.
got a lot, and you got to wonder, like, I wonder if the band, like, you know, they wanted that kind of promotion and publicity from people hating on it to get it more known.
Yeah.
It could have been an experiment in regards to
Could
that.
be.
Um,
Hmm.
I definitely I don't support this direction for the band. I don't think it's a good
Ooh.
representation of their talents.
Have you heard the theory that starting from the stage to now, it's like an allegory for how AI is taking over
Yeah,
everything?
exactly. Yeah, that's
That,
the theory. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, I don't know. Maybe
I
if
mean,
it's true, that'd be incredible. That'd be
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Like I wouldn't totally put that past him. And if they can
Hmm.
pull that off, that's great. But I have a hard time believing that their
Yeah.
next album is going to sound like City of Evil or Waking the Fallen or the Self-Titled or any of their like
Right.
any of like their well received releases.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm more inclined to believe that this was just a failed experiment on the part of the
Hmm.
band. But we'll see. And that's all the band's history up to this point because they just released
Yeah.
it only a few weeks ago. Anyways, let's talk about our top three Avenged Sevenfold songs. So, Brian, if you're able to come up with three songs, let's hear your number three pick when you're ready.
Boy, I had like top seven here written down before
Feel
we
free to give
started.
some honorable mentions.
Yeah, I got to think though what I want the top three to actually be. Um, all right, for honorable mentions, I'll put in Goddamn
Okay.
and The Stage.
Mhm.
Love those songs. And I really like the Diamonds in the Rough stuff.
Okay.
Dancing Dead and Demons. Dancing Dead has an incredible guitar solo on it. If um for number three, let's go. I had Reminiscence. I'll go with
Okay.
Reminiscence.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just
Yeah.
it and it
Yeah. A
what
solid pick. I think we talked about that when we were talking about the album. But yeah, a good deep cut too.
mhm. All of my top five are deep cuts. Yeah,
Nice.
no Nightmare, no Backcountry,
Okay.
nothing like that.
Okay.
So, um,
Yeah.
you want to do your number three then, or
Yeah. Yeah.
no?
I'll do my number three. So, my number three is, and I might get some weird looks for this.
Okay,
Over. The opener from Life Is But a Dream. I'm putting it.
okay,
This, if anybody who watches, this next round of episodes of Deeper Dives, it's going to be a recurring theme that I'm going to put. I like putting new songs. I want to give my love to some new tracks for a lot of these.
okay, sure.
And this is another example of that. And I love the track. I mean, I really do think it works. The between the acoustic, like I said, the Latin influenced acoustic guitar and the rapid vocals and the like building melodies in the chorus and just the dynamics of the track. And it's such a good way to open Life Is But a Dream, which is just such like again like an eclectic, off the wall, just weird album. And they do it in still like Avenged Sevenfold fashion for me on there, while still sounding different. And like I said,
Yeah.
I think it's a great song, and I love the dynamics in it. What's your pick for number two?
And again, I will say with Statica, I look back on Life Is But a Dream a lot more favorably.
Yeah.
I do appreciate
Uh,
any band that tries to experiment like that. I want more of that, than I'd rather they've written that than Hail to the King too. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
oh yeah,
For
totally.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, my number two, I got to go with Sidewinder. That
Okay.
is such an incredible. It's kind of like uh Avenged Sevenfold distilled.
Mhm.
It's got everything, the dual guitar leads, the crazy vocals, the
Yeah.
prog elements,
I always
the
thought the
drumming is nuts.
title. I always thought the title was so fitting too because it has like that staggering nature to it at the same time.
Yeah, the riff kind of feels like a slithering snake sort of thing too. Yeah. And that the ending the Latin section at the end brings it up 2 points easy.
We both got Latin influence in our top threes for Avenged.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
in different way different points of their career too. But
Yeah.
my number two is and this it's funny. I feel like metalheads always have like a certain guilt when they really enjoy a single from a band because
Oh,
you always have the inclination to reach for those deep cuts, especially if you're an underground metal fan or extreme metal fan. But my number two's got to be Beast in the Harlot. This is it was
yeah.
one of the first songs from the band that ever hooked me. I used to love playing the song on drums. It was one of my go-to practice songs, especially when I started really getting into extreme metal, like around like 2018. This is like a really good like transition point into that because of just the
Yeah.
constant dynamics in the track and the double bass work and the drum solo. Of course, it's just a super
Hmm.
dynamic and it's very dynamic in its mood too because it's got that balls to the wall aggression. But again, that chorus, it's got the sugary nature to it. And
Hmm.
even though Matt does sound like a little nasally in it, it kind of fits. It kind of fits the same vibe in a sense. Like it
Yeah.
complements that sugary nature of it, and then the track just goes back and forth so much. And
Hmm.
just a roller coaster ride of a song and a really
It
powerful way
is.
to open the album, City of Evil. Let's hear your pick for the number one Avenged Sevenfold song.
Yeah, man. My number one, all the people around the world rejoice, man. That's my favorite number one for me.
Nice.
No. Um,
Yeah.
I can't, man. I can't do it. No, my number one is it gotta be Save Me. That's probably my favorite. Which is crazy because it's not even the Rev drumming on it or Brooks Wackerman. But
I mean,
I
Mike
know the
Portnoy is a
Rev has
beast. Mike
he's a
Portnoy is
beast,
a
man.
beast.
Yeah. I just the way that song flows, I especially that middle section after the guitar solo. I love that build up back into the last chorus and then the ending, Tonight We All Die Young. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, it's
Really,
incredible.
really powerful song, and it's a highlight for sure on Nightmare. I mean, just being so
Yeah.
powerful and so epic, and especially coming in where it does on the track list, I think it kind of like gives the album a good energy shot.
Yeah.
It's an easy highlight from that record for me as well. However, my number one Avenged Sevenfold song is one of the first songs I ever heard from the band, and still one of my favorites. Another album opener. So all three of my picks were album openers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I just realized that now, and it is Critical Acclaim. I
Yeah.
love the way this song moves. This song is just badass. Like with the organ
Yeah.
intro and then the guitars building up and then it kicks into that vicious scream with the double bass and you get the bass
Hmm.
harmonics and then the up and down dynamics. The Rev doing his lead vocals in the chorus is great. There's
Yeah.
the guitar leads has so much personality to them. The track has
Hmm.
that meanness to it. I mean, M Shadows in those verses is just the way he's just ranting and he's just it's such a cutthroat song and
Yeah.
it's got it just bites so hard and it's still a
Hmm.
track that like I it gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it and like might part of that might be from the nostalgia maybe because I'll always hear that organ intro and remember
Hmm.
I think we might have talked about this in our last deeper dive too but I'll always remember hearing that organ intro and like playing Halo 3 or something
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah. That's
playing the
awesome.
Ark or the Covenant and seeing the Phantoms come in. That this is a whole different conversation now, but like
That's a good fit. Yeah, I could see that.
that's just like
Yeah.
a whole. Funny enough, funny story actually. I used to have a YouTube channel like when I was really young about it was like Halo gameplay, and I did a video
Oh,
where it was
sure.
like all the different ways you can kill a scarab on Halo 3,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
would always put music behind the video, and I put Critical Acclaim as the song for that video.
Nice.
So I think that video is still up somewhere too. I got to find it, but yeah. So
It's a good fit.
easy number one for me. Like it's my favorite on the self-titled album. I've listened to it um, for
Yeah.
since the album came out, almost 20 years
Yeah.
now, and I was really young when it came out. So this is definitely
Yeah.
one of the songs from the
That's a
band
great pick.
that has
That's a great
stuck with
pick.
me the most. So it's
Hmm.
and hearing the rev too. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
feelings come from that too. So
Yeah.
that's our top three Avenged Sevenfold songs. And before we go, we're gonna maybe talk about a few things that we'd like to hear next from, or maybe even a few things we wouldn't want to hear next
Yeah.
from Avenged Sevenfold. I think either one fits here. So Brian, what's your take? What do you want to slash not want to hear from the band on their next album?
I mean, I won't even say that I want them to write another City of Evil or self-titled. Because again, I love the experimentation. I just want them to go back. Maybe they need to get with a producer, someone that'll just kind of tell them,
Keep them in line. Yeah,
yeah, tell them, hey, maybe this idea isn't
yeah.
a hit, you know? Let's bring it back a little bit here, you know?
Lay off the mushrooms, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. And I don't even mind if they bring in some synth stuff, you know, they did that on the stage. Yeah, I know they have the potential to write insane prog, opuses, and I want to hear more of that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I
And
I think you said it best. Like I don't because one of the best things about this band is that they evolve every album. Like no two albums
yeah,
are the same from each other. So I agree that I would not want to hear them try and just replicate one of their older records. I would like to hear them kind of do something. I don't want to say do something new because there's only so much they could do. But if they were to just go for like, they could still pull off a straightforward, like modern classic feels like an onomatopoeia or feels like an oxymoron, but
Yeah.
modern classic metal sound. I feel like they could pull that off in a modern way, even if M Shadows isn't totally testing himself with his range
Yeah.
vocally. Like he could still pull off that. I mean, he's to me for the majority of Life Is But a Dream, he sounded good, aside from a few parts.
Yeah.
So I think he can still do that. He's still performing live. So I
Hmm.
mean, it's I just think the band needs to kind of dial down the computerization and the synthetic quality and just the weirdness a little bit because Statica was just a bit too far
Yeah.
into the just the let's be weird for the sake of being weird part, and the songcraft suffered. But
Yep.
if they could do experimental stuff and keep the songcraft, I'd be happy with another Life Is But a Dream or another The Stage because
Hmm.
those albums at least like were the songs were still there for me.
Hmm.
But at the same time they were really dynamic and they were really weird sounding and progressive, more so, way more so than the majority of their early work. So if
Yeah.
the band feels so compelled to experiment in these ways, I feel like they could still do that just without all of this extra synthetic gloss that is really dominating the actual music. And I
Yeah.
want them to let the instruments and let their actual musical talent do
Hmm.
the push the songs forward as opposed to studio generated.
Yeah.
Um,
Someone just needs to take the auto tune away from Matt.
yeah, and these guys are so. I mean, Sinister Gates is one of the best guitarists in modern metal, and Brooks Rockerman is an insane drummer. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all these guys
Yeah.
are so talented. Like they could
Hmm.
easily make a good album if they just let the music speak for themselves. And that's not what they did on Statica. I did hear
Yeah.
that they were gonna put out like a full album under the Statica name. I don't know if that's true. Um,
I
I,
know
I
they said there's two more songs, I
yeah,
guess, that are
something
going
like
to come
that.
out from that or something. Yeah.
Something like that. And
Oh, I gotta mention too. I know we talked last time. You don't really do live shows. Have you? Well, you saw that they're not even
yeah,
performing Statica.
they're doing it backstage.
They're
Yeah.
yeah. It's just such a weird. I don't know, man. I just if I went paid money to see them, and then the opening act was just them playing behind a curtain, I'd feel a little ripped off by that. You know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
they're clearly trying to do new things, but I agree. It doesn't totally work, and it comes off a little bit like they're trying to just be like I said, be weird just to be weird, and
Yeah.
that just doesn't work for me. The music still has to be there, the songs still have to be there, and
Yep.
they weren't on Static. And
100%.
I hope that they bring back just their raw, genuine musical talent for their next album. Um,
Yeah.
and that's all we have for this episode of Deeper Dives. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to comment below. What are your thoughts on Avenged Sevenfold? What are your thoughts on Statica? What are your thoughts on Life Without a
Yeah.
Dream? How would you rank their albums? What are your top three songs from them? What are some
Yeah.
fun facts that you know about the band? Or maybe have you seen them live? If so, how many times? Fill up the comment section with everything Avenged Sevenfold. And as always, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to Brian's channel as well. He just
Yeah.
uploaded a great cover of he did a
Yep.
proper Avenged Sevenfold rendition of their song Statica, and
Yep.
his own and as part of a collaboration. And the songs sound great. He's got his own original music as well. Heart Rage released a couple of great songs recently. So yeah, I highly recommend checking out Brian's channel. And as always, subscribe to my
Okay.
channel as well for more episodes of Deeper Dives, more album reviews and album rankings. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Peace.